Hey, left, right, out. What is it, the 19th? I haven't been on here, for the last few days. Have been other things going on, plus allergy season. But yesterday was, one of those epic moves in the market, which I've been looking for. It was, almost 1,200 points on the Dow. A good move in the S&P. But one thing is, well, actually, there was a good move in the VIX, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I look at the bond market. People are putting money in there. They're driving down yield. Doesn't make any sense. But I want to, regardless of what happens today, it looks like the market's down a little bit, but the party hasn't even started yet. We haven't got the QT and we haven't got that next rate hike. But Powell's been out there saying that they'll do whatever they can. But this is the same stuff he's been saying for a year now. And then we're going on a couple years where whatever. There is no inflation. Even in their mandate, they're trying to inflate. But anyway, and the money supply is continually increasing. But there's no inflation, transitory inflation, peak inflation, and now and then all the while saying he's going to do whatever it takes to stop inflation, and it's the most persistent regardless. But then Ben Bernanke comes out, their quintessential god of inflation. The guy screwed up everything, and he's throwing Powell under the bus for even though he did the same thing, that Powell is blind at the wheel earlier in this century or whatever, for the '08 bubble. He had no idea that what was going on there. He screwed the whole thing up, and then he has the balls to come out here and say Powell's screwing it up without acknowledging the fact that he screwed up his. If he was remorseful and I did XYZ wrong, I should have seen it, I'm horrible. But Powell's doing the same thing, then I take it a little more with a little more credibility. But we look at these things getting crushed, the market getting crushed. There's a lot of things going on. It's so complex, or when you look at the various layers in the economy and how things are really hashing out, that it's really tough to go through this in, under 20 minutes. But that's why we're doing kind of wave toppy stuff. But anyway, I'm looking for things to really just start deteriorating, especially when we get that next rate hike, when QT starts coming in. Because if you look at the balance sheet, of all things, the balance sheet's still expanding on the Fed side. Now, I haven't looked at consumer credit. I know consumer credit hit an all-time high, so credit is expanding. So money and credit are expanding. That's inflation. But so I don't know what the Fed's doing, but at the same time, I think the Fed, while talking a big game and not doing really anything, essentially, I don't know if Powell's just playing a card that he thinks that demand destruction is going to overtake supply destruction in this, and somehow it's gonna shake out. But yeah, people will get hurt regardless. But he's playing that card wrong, because you're going to see it on the supply side of things, where operators just aren't going to be able to pass the cost. They're going to fold over. Especially with diesel prices and fuel prices. And, if you look at the PPI numbers and whatnot, you're going to have companies folding up, and you're going to destroy supply in a sense. That's why it's so imperative that you do something now, so we can get back to investing in companies that are viable, and putting capital where it needs to be. But it looks like we'll keep going down this train track. Housing market, like I keep talking about, that's on the fritz. We haven't even begun that journey yet. That's why I'm still on the short side of this thing, even after that move. I know I think I sold a small call, way out of the money on something that expires this week. But that's it. If I get called out, I get called out. But I doubt if we get called out on this one, it's because we had a flush out. And I haven't seen it. It seems pretty orderly, even if it was 1,200 points yesterday. I haven't seen the massive panic. The VIX is still at 31. To me, I know that historically is high. But in a very panicky move, you would see that this huge spikes. If you look at these giant, I get allergies, but you'd see these huge spikes, and you would see and in this case, you'd see the bond market kind of flare. But here's what I'm looking at now. Excuse me. I'm looking at when Powell does say uncle, and he just continues his inflationary policies. Because the market's hit. Because that's what these guys look. They're on ivory towers out there. They don't know what the average person's really going through, to be totally honest. And he might say uncle and then continue on the destruction of the economy And then you would have a bull market kind of in the stock market, and then you'd have the currency collapse. But I'm waiting for him to say uncle when they're going to turn back on the QE funnel, because then you have to pivot really quick and get long whatever S&P 500 or Dow Jones. And I'm no longer playing single stocks anymore. I'm just going to go straight indices, because you're just trading the Fed anyway the last like 20 years. Anyway, I mean, I'm not even going into cultural issues yet, but so the market's getting very interesting. What else is going on? There's something else I was going to talk about whenever I get on here. It's like, well, I lose my mind. Yeah, housing crash starting. There's an article on that. Soaring fuel prices. This has been covered by, especially if you look on the freight side of things. So just don't get your news from CNN, but there's guys that report on freight news and what's going on there, and they're devastated. I think I've talked about some of the reports. These, especially on the smaller operator side of things, these fuel prices, the ability to get trucks, like, because you put 1 million miles whatever on an 18-wheeler, and the maintenance costs start building up. So sometimes you roll over that fleet, you're going to get you want to get a new truck. That's getting harder to do. So you're you're asking more of the equipment that there is. What do we got here? There's just Target. That's what it was. That's the other thing. So yesterday, when Target reported earnings, that seemed to be the catalyst of all things. I think they got the Walmart earnings and some of these other guys coming out, but it was like, okay, well, now we got Target talking about the pressures that are in the pipeline for them, and I think there's almost like a realization for some people, like, oh, yeah, all these other people aren't lying, and things are coming down the pipe. But I see Russia news. They pretty much taken Mariupol. There's a couple commanders or something there. But it seems like all these sanctions on them, the $40 billion passed the Senate to go to Ukraine, even though Rand Paul tried to stop it. But it seems like there's a reverse effect on these sanctions. They're hurting us, and they're not hurting them. Russia's booming over there. The ruble's strong. Their oil revenues are strong. Yeah, they can't get a thing with an M on it, because that was weird that McDonald's said that they were going to sell off whatever their brand over there, or their assets over there. It's not weird that they're going to sell. It's weird because from what I've heard from Russians is that they just turned the M's sideways, essentially, and they were still cooking hamburgers, man, and they just took them over, seized them. So I don't know if McDonald's is going to try to get something out of those, even though they're already seized. I don't know what's going on there, but it seems odd that story came out, randomly. But they're not doing without a few whatever American items, but when they look at going and filling up their car, getting food, I mean, they're not having the same issues as we're having. Continued price, and you're seeing oscillating prices in the supermarkets. I've noticed. I've been paying really close attention to the prices around where I'm at. The good thing is we got pasta. Thank God. The pasta racks for the first time in a couple of years are full, which I don't know what's going on there, but that's a good thing. So you celebrate the wins, I guess, at this point. We shouldn't be doing this in this country, but this is where we're at. Hey, there's some food item. I feel like I'm living in Venezuela, but for God's sakes, hey, we got a few things. It's very interesting. So Musk, the Twitter stuff is interesting, and then I want to leave it here. We'll just keep this under 10 minutes because I want to pay attention to the market. So, the Musk acquisition of that, well, he's, put people, or he's ordered an investigation to see how many bot accounts in there. Well, it just so happens that, Biden's bot account, or Biden's account of followers on Twitter is half bots. We don't even know the real numbers on how many of the users are bots, but essentially it's going to be really high. Employees are getting caught now by Project Veritas complaining, making fun of Elon, of all things, for disabilities. I mean, these people have no bounds. It's like double jeopardy, or not double jeopardy. They're so hypocritical. You can't hold them to the same standard. And I believe it was put to me the other day that I was listening to a gentleman that's far smarter than I am, but he's talking about how the politicians, or in this case, these people are quasi-politicians. They're not operating for profit. They're operating for an ideology that the standards, that they're above moral standards. So it's okay for them to make fun of Elon for having Asperger's. And it's okay at the same time to ridicule you for making fun of some, or alluding to the fact that somebody might be mentally incapacitated in some regard, in another sense. So they can do it, but you can't, and it's all, ideological driven. But it's kind of funny listening to these two guys who are caught on camera. One is kind of, he's an Indian guy, and I kind of feel sorry because he's getting taken on, he's on a date with a gal, and you know, that's all another issue. But anyway, he seems like he's coming, he's open to the minded that Elon's coming in. He doesn't kind of want to view the same things the same way as the people around him, but they're all leftists according to him, and they kind of like pushing that agenda within, it seems like, the company culture. But I hope he doesn't get fired, because I don't see him as that bad of a guy. The second guy who's making fun of Elon and is pretty much, this guy is off the chain. If it was me, like if I was Elon, this guy's gone. I'd give him, he should be a barista somewhere. I can't even believe this is what's so skewed in the market. I mean, a guy like that can pull in however much money, but then you have, people that know how to do things, and tradesmen that are having, issues. But anyway, leave it there. Continue watching the market, continue watching that 10-year, listen to what the inklings of what the Fed are, but keep an open mind on what's going on. And look for key levels. Now, there's a lot of calls. You can pull a chart on the S&P 500, and it looks like, to me, it's like 35, that 3,500 area seems to be a pretty big deal. But we haven't even got started yet. Wait till we get another interest rate hike. Wait till we get some QE. Watch the balance sheet. The balance sheet's still expanding, even though it's just small. But the balance sheet hasn't even gone down on the Fed side, or on the Federal Reserve side. We're still in a very accommodative monetary space here. It's just we've been so accommodative that this is relatively tight and comparatively. So very interesting times, but hopefully we can make some money off of it. And I mean, you hate to make money off pain, but this is well telegraphed, and you are entitled to, in fact, being short the market is essential in price discovery. You have to. You can't rely on these guys. But anyway, don't fight the Fed. There is tighter relative monetary policy. You have to be short in this stuff, strategically, of course. But anyway, talk to you later. Peace.